Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So this is my spoiler review for episode 19 of The Walking Dead. This episode was absolutely amazing. A definite improvement over 17 and 18. If I could, I would reduce, or I don't give a rating in my reviews, but if I could, I would reduce the rating for 17 and 18. Because 19 was just that good. I really enjoyed this episode. So before we go any further, obviously I do have to warn you that this will contain spoilers for tonight's episode, so I hope you guys are aware of that. And if you are new here, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want more Walking Dead content like this. I will be posting my trailer breakdown for the Commonwealth scene. There's some other teasers and trailers and all that. Those will be coming later on tonight, so stay tuned for that. I'm also pre-recording this, so I don't know if my daughter is going to be born yet, and if she is, some of that stuff might not come out. I'm going to be doing the trailer breakdown. That'll be out for sure after this, but usually I'll post like 2 or 3, maybe 4 videos on Sunday nights, and I might not be able to get all of it done just because, yeah, obviously my daughter will be born, but we'll see. I might still be waiting, and if I am, that really sucks. Now, this episode, I mean, damn, the ending of the episode was, like I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, this was an X-Files episode if The Walking Dead ever wanted to write one. Like, this was the perfect X-Files / Walking Dead story. It was just that good. And the reason why I know it's good, and I mentioned this in my non-spoiler review, but I want to mention it here for people who didn't watch that or are just checking this out now. Take out Father Gabriel and Aaron, like, out of the episode, and replace them with, like, Rick and Negan, or Rick and Morgan. Now imagine all the scenes play out the same. That's how I know the episode is really good. If this was just Rick and Negan together, like in this bar or whatever, and they were just talking about stuff, and or even if it was Morgan, they were talking about stuff and however it all played out, and we got the same table scene with the Russian roulette scene, all the intensity of all of it, the way it ends, that's how I know this episode is absolutely amazing. It's because what actually happens is just that good. And with Father Gabriel and Aaron, it's still really good. It's just not as good because they're, like, for me anyways, if they're your favorite characters, and obviously they are going to be, I mean, this episode you probably really enjoyed, but they're not my favorites like Rick is, right? Or like Morgan. If they were here in this episode, I mean, this is another clear episode, like easily, for sure. Now, in the beginning, I made this note here, the whole searching through the cars scene was pretty awesome just because it's interesting to see how much time has passed. It's scary to think about sometimes because it can really mess with you. Like, there was that zombie in the car, or in that van. The zombie was just there from the beginning, right? It looked like the van was parked there from the beginning and something happened when they were all stranded out there. And it's just insane to think about. Like, night after night, day after day, the zombie was just sitting there in that car for over 10 years. Seeing the dead and just all the sadness too in the episode, it was pretty remarkable. And I think by the end of the episode, I felt like I was just broken. It felt like it was just so depressing. Maze was right, I think, in the end. I do think Maze was right. And we'll get to that point later on in the review, but I do think Maze was right about there's really only thieves and murderers, I guess, in the world in that sense. And yeah, I think there's not really much good people left. Like, we know there's still good people because we know people in Alexandria, but I think when it comes down to it, with what Maze was trying to prove, I mean, he was technically right. Now, that Mudwalker scene was pretty cool. Father Gabriel fell in and he just got completely covered in mud. They added a little bit of humor in there with Aaron laughing and poking fun at him. There was the Dwayne Jones whiskey, which is actually a nod to Dwayne Jones, the character in Night of the Living Dead, which also Dwayne Jones, like Morgan's son, Dwayne Jones, he's actually, like, his character in general is a nod to that character, if George Romero's character anyway. So it's kind of an Easter egg to both, I guess you could say. There's no relevance in it in terms of Dwayne actually coming back on the show, obviously, because he can't. Even though I think if they wanted to, they probably could write something, but there's nothing here. It was just the bottle, and it was still kind of cool anyways. But man, I gotta drink like Father Gabriel does. I really do. When he was in that scene, I don't know if that's the way you do it, but like drinking whiskey or smelling the whiskey beforehand anyways, and thinking of just the way it smells and what smells are actually there, and maybe it reminds you of something from when you were a kid or something like that. I have to try that out now. I just love that scene. And I would say Father Gabriel in general in this episode was just, he was so interesting. And a lot of that was, I think, just through his dialogue and the stories he told. Like, we learned a lot of interesting Gabriel backstory in this episode. We learned that his mentor, I believe his name was Reverend George. I could have gotten that wrong, but he learned, you know, everything he knows about whiskey from him, and just really everything that he knows about being a priest, he learned from his mentor, Reverend George. And Aaron, we kind of learned a little bit about. This episode definitely was more focused on Father Gabriel. Aaron says that helping people and finding people out in the world to bring back back to Alexandria. That felt right. It's something they don't do anymore, and they should do a lot more of that. And it's funny because with Maze, that's something Aaron should have did. Right? He couldn't. That would have been what was right. And when you think about that scene again, there's a reason why they don't really do that anymore, is because you can't trust a lot of people out there. And so I think that was the turning point. I think if Father Gabriel never killed Maze at the end and Aaron took him back home, he would have been doing what he always did. And thus, they would have been right. But because Father Gabriel killed Maze, that just proves Maze right, that there's just bad people here in the world now. Because Aaron's spirit seemed completely broken at the end, because he just seemed so destroyed that Father Gabriel even did that. Like, I know that there could be some issues there because apparently he killed his family or his brother and his brother's family and stuff, but there was still some hope there. And I think for certain people like Rick with Glenn and even Judith and stuff, I think you could have taken him in and he could have been a very valuable character or person or whatever to the community. Like, look at Negan. Right? He's done some horrible things and look how much he's changed. So I think Gabriel was in the wrong to do that. And I think that shows that Aaron was right about that. The Whisperers definitely messed with Gabriel's head. His point of view has changed so much that killing Maze, I wonder if that's going to haunt him now in the future. And again, that could be my perspective on it and my opinion on it, but I don't think it was the right thing to do. I think you could have brought him back. I think he could have changed, and I think he could have been a better person. But after all of this, Gabriel and Aaron pass out, and then Gabe wakes up, and Aaron's gone still, and then he runs to Maze. And again, I've said this so much, and I know I probably sound like a broken record, but Robert Patrick is just absolutely amazing. He's just so good in this episode. The Russian roulette scene was so intense. I wasn't expecting it to feel intense. And that first round, I was like, okay, if that's it, that wasn't too bad. But it just kept building and building. And I knew, because we never saw Aaron screaming and with the gun to his head, that probably wasn't the end, but the tension just kept building and building. But the first round was good. When they sat there and they did that, it was pretty intense. But Father Gabriel and Aaron, they did it. And that should have been the end of it. But no, I don't want to say Robert Patrick, but Maze, he wanted to be proven right. What he wanted was for Aaron to turn the gun on Gabriel, or vice versa. That's what he wanted, because it would have proven his point, but it never happened. And so we go to the second round, and there was only 4 possible, well, I guess a 1 in 4 chance now that was going to be the bullet. And during this, we learned some more backstory about Maze's life with his brother and his family and stuff, which is pretty cool. And that really was the whole thing with Maze in this episode, was he was just trying to make the point that there is selfishness in this world. There's evil in all of us. He's not a bad guy. Right? That's what his whole argument is, that he's not a bad guy. Or that even if he was, the things that he's done were bad, that's just everyone now. He was trying to justify his actions. And so the second round got a little more intense. Maze made it very hard for Aaron, because he brought up Gracie. Obviously, he overheard that. And that was the whole creepy thing to this episode. I think rewatching it, knowing that Maze was there the entire time, listening to their conversation and listening to everything, that definitely adds a very creepy tone or vibe to the episode. But yeah, back to my previous point, Maze was trying to get Aaron to crack and turn the gun on Gabriel. He wouldn't. Aaron put it on himself, and he was about to pull the trigger, and I do think that was the bullet. I think if Maze didn't stop Aaron, that would have been it for Aaron right there. But Maze stopped him, which was unexpected. And then Father Gabriel goes into this whole speech just about, how there's good in all of us and how we can definitely help you, this and that you weren't, you're not that bad of a person, blah, blah, blah. Maze starts to feel really bad, and then he lets Aaron go, and he's like, I'm Maze. And you could tell there was a turning point here. And then Gabe just kills him with Aaron's mace hand thingy. And so Aaron, after this, just seems very destroyed and is looking at Gabriel like, how or why did you do that? And so that's where I think Maze was right the entire time, because Gabriel lied to him. That whole speech he gave, that he was lying. Gabriel knew the whole time they couldn't bring this guy back because he killed his brother's family, which is is that really good enough of a reason? And so when you think of Gabriel and just who he is, he's a priest, and he really believes that there's good in all of God's creations and stuff, then why would you do something like that, right? And so I think it's really interesting with the character. He is definitely lost. He definitely is very lost, and I think the Whisperers did this to him. I don't know where this is going to go. I think this is definitely set up for the final season into certain things he may do, but this was pretty dark for Father Gabriel. It was, and Aaron was shocked by what he did, but you just got to keep going, right? right? But then the twist happens and it was creepy. Maze's brother and his family, the family that he apparently killed, and his brother were upstairs in the attic the entire time. Like, this is some fucked up shit. Now, his brother was alive, but the child wasn't. I guess his niece or nephew. And his brother, they're twin brothers. I wasn't expecting that. That's where it gets very X-Files like, because like it's Robert Patrick up there. And I don't know what his brother's name is, but he's up there. He has extremely long hair now, and he's handcuffed up there. He's been up there for I don't even know how long. Like, they were probably there for years. Definitely since his family was just bones literally on the ground. And yeah, he ended up just killing himself, and Aaron's spirit in the end was just so destroyed. And they walked out, and then they said one more. They're going to check out the water tower, which also was pretty hilarious. The reason they used the water tower and its significance for Gabriel is because obviously in the comics, Father Gabriel, he's like hanging from a water tower. That's how he dies. You see the water tower, they're heading towards it. And basically what it means is that they just got to keep pushing, and over there, it's probably going to be a lot worse for them, but they just got to keep moving on. And so this episode is just such a depressing episode on just the state of the Walking Dead's world. Like, that's really all I can say. I would say that the episode overall was for sure my favorite of these three so far. I think will be my favorite of the six. I think Here's Negan could be better, but I think the writing was absolutely amazing. And if you didn't like it, I would really like to know why you didn't like it. Like, episode 17 and 18, I get why people weren't a fan of it, but with 19, I don't really see... I could see some criticisms, but can't really see that much, like any valid ones anyways, in my opinion. But I'll leave it here. Post all your thoughts down below. What did you guys think of tonight's episode? Stay tuned for my trailer breakdown coming out very soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one.